everyone, it's Sean from What Up, and welcome back to another video. Now, this will be my Easter egg video for episode 4. There are a ton of little nods to the fans and little things in the background, and I'm going to go through all of them in this video. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'm putting out a ton of Wheel of Time content, upwards of 2 videos per day, all about the show, including news and castings and all kinds of other stuff. You're not going to want to miss any of it. Alright, now before we get into this video, spoiler warning. In this video, we're going to talk about Episode 4 Easter eggs. So we're going to spoil everything up to and including Episode 4 in Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. And because this is an Easter egg video and I'm going to ramble on about certain things, I'm giving a spoiler warning of up to Book 14, that's A Memory of Light, all 14 books of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. If you haven't read those, I will be talking about things in the much later books. Alright, let's get on to the video. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the male half of the true source. It's essentially showcased as white bands, much like the female half is. However, there's that black, oily taint, or corruption, as they've coined it for the show, over top of it. You can see it in both these shots right here, where basically you can see the white underneath, but it's kind of coated in a black, oily substance. That's showcasing the taint, and that's what makes the men who use the one power go mad. Now, we're going to talk about this for just a second. There's a couple of things with this. Now, you'll notice in a lot of these stills the subtitles are on because, like I said in the previous video, I watch things with subtitles because I have some hearing loss. Now, what initially happened when these voices were off screen, one of them was Elusha. Now, Elusha Salid is a character played by Rebecca Tanwin, who WatSeries.com talked about quite some time ago, and I did a casting video on, again, quite some time ago. However, I could find zero reference to that name anywhere. So I looked through the companion, I looked online, I looked through all the wikis, I looked through the books again, and I can't find any mention of that character in relation to Logain. Now, Logain does have an expanded storyline in the series, so I'm going to assume that this could be someone from his past, or maybe, just maybe, it could be one of those female dragons that they are talking about. Because let's face it, what they're doing now is they're talking about the dragon could be male and female, and it's kind of canonized for the show at the very least, because it's been mentioned a bunch of different times so far. Now, we do hear Logain talk about this later on in the episode, where he says that he hears the voices of all of the dragons that have come before him, and I think that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing what he believes are dragons talking to him when it's really just the madness taking him. Now, I want to point something out here. We've only seen 2 instances of madness on screen right now, and we know of a third that's coming. So the first instance was the very opening scene of the first episode, where he had a male channeler running down the path with someone else who really wasn't there. He was imagining him. Now we have the instance of Logain, who sees and hears voices of people that aren't there. Next, we're going to have Rand, who can talk to Lews Therin, because that's what happens later on when he starts to go mad. I'm wondering if maybe they're not going to showcase the madness so much as all different, because in the book series there is any number of types of madness, everything from acting childlike to extreme rage, to despondency, to sadness, to fear of things that aren't there, to hearing voices. There was all kinds of them. I'm thinking maybe what they're doing for the show is they're going to cut it down and just basically make it you see people that aren't there that talk to you. I could be completely wrong, but the evidence so far, and I mean we're only 4 episodes in, seems to support that. So I want to hear what you folks think in the comments down below. How do you think they're going to portray madness for the rest of the season and the rest of the series? Will it be similar to this, or will they branch out and do different things? Alright, now we're going to talk about this. When we see the encampment with the Aes Sedai are at, we see big, huge tents. Now we've already seen white cloak tents that are white, and they have all of the sunbursts and stuff on them. Now we're seeing red and green tents in this encampment, and that's where the red sisters and the green sisters are staying, and they're kind of staying together. That sort of mirrors what we see in the books. They don't really intermingle between the Ajas very much. They're very separate. They're very different than each other, so they like to stay away from one another. Now, not a huge Easter egg, however, it is something that is similar to what we're seeing in the books, and we are seeing that separation here. Alright, this is something else I want to talk about here. When Maureen first goes in to see Logain, who's been captured and is in this cage, he's being shielded by 2 sisters, Liandrin and Alana. Now, in the book series, generally it's 6 sisters to shield a man, and that's just kind of tradition more than anything else, and most Aes Sedai do things just for tradition's sake. However, here in the show, they're doing it in shifts of 2, and they're complaining about how strong he is, and that it takes 2 of them, and only the strongest sisters can do it. I don't know if that's because they didn't want to showcase the link any earlier in the episode, but it's something that could very easily have been done. They all linked together, they sit around, and they could have shared the burden and very easily taken him all the way to Tar Valon. However, it would have taken away that little plot detail where Leander wanted to gentle him on the spot because it was too difficult for the few sisters who were strong enough to shield him. Again, maybe it is just sort of tradition in the show, in the series. It's a change to have 2 sisters do it rather than 6. I don't know exactly, but hopefully we'll find out later on in the season or the series. Alright, we're going to talk about this. This is some obvious foreshadowing, I think. Maybe. So we know in the Eye of the World, when Perrin and Egwene were captured by the White Cloaks, Moraine, Lan, and Nynaeve basically rescued them. What Leander describes here is essentially what they did to rescue Perrin and Egwene in the books. They snuck into the camp at night. They used some lightning as a distraction. Of course, they didn't shield anyone in their sleep, but that's what happened. They snuck into the camp at night. Moraine used lightning as a distraction, scattered the horses, and they were able to get Perrin and Egwene out pretty easily. This is either going to be a little bit of foreshadowing to the rescue attempt later on in the series, maybe the next episode perhaps, or it could be just a nod to the readers because they're not going to do that rescue attempt. They'll get out some other way. My guess is they're probably going to get out by the wolves helping them, but again, I haven't seen the episode, so that's just pure speculation on my part. Alright, something else I want to show here is this is Maureen shielding Logain. In her hands, she's holding a shield, and it's a small version of the bigger shield around Logain. They seem to pulse and move together in the same way, so I'm guessing she's concentrating on something in front of her to shield Logain further away. Although, if you notice here, a lot of times during the series, not in this particular screenshot, so far I've seen a lot of Aes Sedai close their eyes while channeling, and we're going to talk about that just in a little bit, because it is a difference from the books. Alright, here is another small change, maybe, big change. Leander is talking about the Red Aja does. They basically police the one power, which is true. They hunt down men who could channel and they gentle them or make sure they're safe. In the book series, they're also responsible for hunting down rebel factions of Aes Sedai, or women who can channel that aren't connected to the White Tower. That's their job. So basically a Red Sister's job is either to take care of men who can channel, or women who are not affiliated with the Tower, or are no longer affiliated with the Tower, that are channeling without the Tower's express permission. That's their job. This is kind of sounding like the police force or the internal affairs of the Aes Sedai, which may make things work a little bit better for the TV show, but I think it's just a little hint of what they might do later on. Alright, now we're going to talk about this. This isn't really a nod to anything in the book series. This is a physical manifestation of the taint of the dagger. So essentially, Mat was throwing up. This stuff came out of his mouth. It was on the ground. It looked exactly like what I assumed was Mashadar in the last episode. So whenever we seen Mashadar, which was no longer white fog, it was the big tendrils and stuff, it was that black ooze going all around the city. This seems to be what's infecting Mat, and it's kind of like the symbiote from Venom. That's what it seems like to me. I think it's just a better way of showcasing the sickness. I'm not quite sure where they're going with this. Maybe they'll explain it later on when they extract it. I don't know. But I think, personally, it's probably just the way they're showcasing how he's getting sick. Now we're going to talk about this. Again, remember I said to watch things with subtitles? It's going to come up a few times. Robin Betteridge is the young girl who's playing Else Grinwell. Now, she was reported officially as playing Helga Grinwell. Now, my sources reached out to me when that happened, and I did a video on it quite some time ago, a few weeks ago now, and said that no, she was actually cast as Else. She did her lines and her scenes as Else, and they happened to change her name to Helga after the fact. And you'll notice that very carefully in the show, they never mention her name at all. However, subtitles still list her as Else, even though the credits of the episode list her as Helga. So that's, I think, a small mistake in production's part. They forgot that. They probably had the subtitles written up prior to, made the change at the last second, probably due to the fact that they wanted to use Else in a later episode or later season, and they forgot about this. So, something neat that I saw. Now, this is another little nod and Easter egg to the fans. This is her doll, Brigitte. Now, Brigitte is the golden-haired archer that eventually gets bonded by Elaine. Now, she is one of the heroes of the Horn. She gets ripped away from the Horn, comes into our world, and basically lives out her life like that as Elaine's warder. Like I said, remember I gave you spoilers up to including Memory of Light. It's because I'm going to ramble like this. This is a little nod to that, saying she wants to see the world and stuff. I liked it. I thought it was very neat. I thought Robin's scene was really fantastic here. It was a really touching scene between her and Mat. And of course, this is Barney Harris. I thought fantastic acting chops here. He looked sad. He was worried about his sisters. I loved this scene. All right. Now, this is the story that we kind of a little bit got told during the book series about Thom Merrilin's nephew, Owen. Now, Owen could channel the one power. You eventually hear about this in the book series. You hear little tidbits about it here and there. But what happened was while Thom was the court bard in Camelin, he didn't come home to help him. The Red Sisters came, and they gentled Owen, and he gave up willing to live. Sort of like the story he's telling here. They're putting it more in your face now to give you an idea that Thom is sympathetic to these people, and he wants to travel with Mat and Rand and protect them. So when he sacrifices himself later fighting the Fade, you understand why. I like that. I like the fact that it was more in your face. You know it earlier rather than trying to find out later on. All right. Now we're back to the Aes Sedai camp. There's a few shots of different things in here. You'll notice that the Aes Sedai at the end of the night came and the Green Sisters all collected their warders with knowing looks. I think this is basically kind of showing, with all the little innuendos that they talked about around the fire with Nynaeve, that there is sexual relationships between the warders and the Aes Sedai. So they do mention they're closer than wives and husbands, than family, than parents and children, and they're probably showcasing that here. It's very subtle, but I did pick up on it after my second or third watch, so I wanted to showcase that here too. All right, now this. They're talking about a few different things when they're in the Tinker camp, Perrin and Egwene. Now, initially, they pick right up on the fact that he's done violence with an axe, because she tells a story, have you ever done violence with anything? And Perrin kind of gets quiet, and she lists off a bunch of weapons, and he hesitates when she says axe, and then she picks right up on that. Have you been happier since you picked up the axe? And of course he isn't, because he used that axe to kill his wife. So, this is a little nod to the big turmoil that Perrin has in the book series, where he has to choose between the axe and the hammer all the time. Because after that really serious talk, it shows him here using the hammer to fix, and this is just a mallet, it's not a smith's hammer, but it is a hammer, to fix one of the wagon wheels. And she talks about how he's finding peace in the work. So it's sort of talking about the story between his axe and his hammer while they're here with the Tinkers. Again, changes from the book series because there's no Elias. However, I like the way this kind of played out, and they're starting to lay the groundwork for that axe versus hammer story. All right, this is that dream. I don't know if anyone noticed, it went by pretty quick, but Perrin is basically forging his wife, Layla. She's laying here dead, and he's smoking her with the hammer. Pretty gruesome scene. But this is followed right up with Mat with a bloody red hand. Now, this could be foreshadowing to the fact that he's standing over the Grinwald's bodies in about 3 minutes from here, right in the very next scene. Or it could be foreshadowing that he is the general of the Band of the Red Hand. Could be any number of different little things. But I think this is just kind of a scary dream that's scaring Rand, kind of making him think something is wrong, because the next shot is this. The Dark One grabs Egwene. Now, this is a better shot of the Dark One with his terrible skin, his furnaces for eyes and his mouth. And as people have pointed out, and I've mentioned in other videos, the fact that he's using the true power almost exclusively at this point is the reason why he has these symptoms. It's the last stages of true power sickness, where essentially he's drawing too much true power from the Dark One all the time. He's addicted to it, and he'll eventually burn himself out and die. Because, let's face it, at this point, he's so insane, he really does think that he's the Dark One. But we're actually starting to get more and more glimpses of him as the series goes on. We're in episode 4 now, and we're actually getting full body shots. We're seeing him on the screen for more than a second or two. So I think this is going to continue right up until they hit the Eye of the World, and they actually meet, I believe, Shamael there. Alright, so this is another little nod to the books. Mat says this to the Fade, I see you. He doesn't say that to Shadowspawn in the books. However, when they come to him in the inn in Camelin, he starts talking to them, I see you, like he's seeing into their souls. He talks to Nynaeve, he talks to Maureen, he talks to Perrin about his secrets, all kinds of other little tidbits there. And this is basically, I think, a small nod to that, because I don't think we're getting to Camelin in the series. At least all the evidence points to them going straight to Tar Valon, so this might be a little bit of a nod to that one scene. All right, something else I wanted to bring up. Now, I've gone through a bunch of different shots here, and I want to hear your folks' take on this, because I'm a little confused. Whenever the Aes Sedai use their power, the tendrils seem to come in and around themselves. Sometimes off screen, sometimes they're connecting to other things, but mostly around themselves, out of their fingertips, out of their bodies, in and around them. When Logain is using the one power, you always see the tendrils coming from off screen. They're big, thick, black ropes, so they're tainted ropes of the one power. I'm wondering if this is sort of like that little connection to the Dark One the Dark Friends had, and that the Dark One, so to speak, Shamiel at the end of the book series had in the first book, The Eye of the World, or if maybe he's just trying to affect things off screen. I want to hear your take on it. Do you think that this is showcasing that he's pulling the power from and through the Dark One rather than a clean spot around him? Or is it just, him affecting other things outside? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, this is a scene where you see that Stefan realizes his Aes Sedai is dead. She dies, and he just stops in the middle of the battle. Not exactly the way I pictured a warder rage, because essentially when an Aes Sedai dies, a warder rages and does one of two things. He either gives up living completely, or he tries to avenge her immediately and dies, usually in the process, which is why it's such a big plot point later on in the book series when Maureen dies and Lan's bond is sent somewhere else. That way he won't kill himself, because there is a sister who is skilled in keeping a warder alive after their Aes Sedai dies. So I think they're trying to showcase it here, but they didn't really go overboard with it, because essentially he just ran in and ran after Logain at this point because he knew where she died. And yes, he did sort of berserker rage. He ran at Logain and jumped, but it wasn't what I expected to see. I thought it would be a lot more dramatic than it was. But maybe it's just toned down for the other viewers. I don't know. This is what I wanted to talk about here. We've seen a bunch of different scenes so far, especially in this episode, where Aes Sedai are channeling with their eyes closed, or they're affecting things they can't see, which is not book canon whatsoever. It's a little bit different. So I think they're taking the direction of how the power works slightly different. For example, when Karina was healing Maureen, it appeared to me, at least, and I watched it back and I went through the stills, that she had her eyes closed in concentration. And there's been a bunch of times when Maureen's used one power, she's closed her eyes in concentration. It looks a lot more dramatic on the screen. I think it's a small change from the books. However, I believe it's probably more of a visual thing they're showing. And in this particular scene, Lana is channeling behind herself. She's blowing up the hill to her left, her right, and immediately behind her, quite a few feet behind her. She can't see what she's doing here. She pulled one power, she thrust it behind her, did what she did. So I think maybe the fact that Aes Sedai can channel with their eyes closed and affect things that are unseen may be a thing in the series. Again, let me know your thoughts down below in the description box, the comments. I want to hear what you folks think. Am I off base here, or am I seeing something that's really happening? All right. Now we're going to talk about this, Nynaeve going Super Saiyan. Essentially what happens here is she gets upset, she gets angry, much like she does in the book series, and she heals everyone. This is sort of like throwing regrowth from the Final Fantasy games. She just kind of healed everyone in a big ball of healing. Now there were big tendrils, huge, thick tendrils of power coming out from her, going around, touching everyone else, healing them all, and she's right at the center of it, glowing brighter than the sun. Now, she's been described that way a couple of times in the books when she draws in all the power she can. She is exceptionally powerful, one of the most powerful female channelers ever. And I think this is the first little taste of what we're getting on the screen. But when Logain says that little thing, glowing brighter than the sun, he does have a talent in the book series to see Ta'veren. Now, Nynaeve has never been once described as a Ta'veren in the book series, although they are sort of talking like there's 4 Ta'veren from the town, a rumor of them, that's what they said in the first episode. I'm wondering if maybe they meant Nynaeve and not the 3 boys and Egwene. Maybe they meant 2 of the boys, Egwene and Nynaeve. I don't know. Maybe he's kind of seeing that here. Maybe I'm stretching, maybe I'm reaching. Either way, I really liked her going Super Saiyan here and healing everyone. I thought it was really cool. Last thing we're going to talk about is this. They gentle Logain, and essentially you have 2 big black wings of power pulled out of his chest. It's almost like they're ripping the ability from him. We never really got to see anything like this on the screen before, and when it's described in the books, it's just they're severing their tie. It's not really described like this. This is much more dramatic, and I like the way this looks. I think it kind of looks like big fallen angel wings coming from the front of him, and then when this happens, you see 2 teardrops fall from his eyes. Really neat scene, really powerful. I loved it. Now, that's pretty much all the stills I wanted to show you from the episode and all the things I wanted to talk about in this little Easter egg video. Let me know your comments down below. Again, like I've said in the other Easter egg videos, I probably missed a fair number of them. Let's face it, I can only watch the episodes so many times, and I'm trying to go through them screen by screen, although I'm going to miss some things. So anything I do miss, comment down below, send me an email, send me a message on Twitter or on Instagram. Let me know what they are, because I want to do a full Easter egg video for the entire season after the 8th episode is done. That way, anything I missed, I can bring up and talk about then. Alright, thank you so very much for sticking with me here to the very end. Here's to many more.